Do Business Like a Woman, and this is the Do Business Like a Woman show. Welcome, welcome. So we're talking about how to use your archetypes to get clients, and we are going to dive into this topic today. So I'm sharing this because it's been such an interesting part of my journey, and I also see it with clients as well, that when they understand and they get this piece, everything changes in their business. So I cannot believe it's Monday again already and time for the show, and I can't believe it's autumn in 2020. Where has this year gone? And I know in many ways it's been an interesting year, challenging, shall we say. And I made a post in the group this morning about my own personal struggles recently, just in terms of balancing health and business and all the demands and all the crazy stuff that's happening out there. You know, as a woman, you will have experienced the same. We wear so many different hats. There are so many demands on our time, and particularly as female entrepreneurs, as we are building these businesses and we're helping people, it can be difficult to know how to juggle the different priorities that we have, how to show up for our clients and still take care of ourselves, how to build our businesses, how to bring in profits and still look after our health. So I shared a post just earlier today about, an experience I had last week of getting really sick after having a good month in my business, and really kind of expanding what I was doing and increasing the activity. And really everything that's brought back to me and reminded me of, and that we're not all the same. We each have different ways we flow, different energy patterns, different energy levels. So it's not to think how someone else shows up is how we have to show up. And that's been a really big lesson for me, is knowing that I'm not going to be the same as my coach. And, that's fine. It's okay. And we all need to respect our individual journeys. Now, that said, it's so important to be consistent over the long term, but equally taking good care of our health, especially as entrepreneurs. It's not a luxury, it is a necessity. And I found any time that I neglect that side of things, when I get busy in the business, I pay for it, particularly as someone with a health condition that I am healing. So as a woman, whether you have a health condition or not, I know you can relate to all the juggling. So as you come on, say hello so I know who's here. And today we're talking about the power archetypes and also the shadow archetypes, because I have seen this make a profound difference in people's businesses. You wouldn't believe some of the transformations I see just from bringing this to awareness with people. And I came across the archetypes again a few months ago. I'd always been aware of them. I can't remember how I first came across them, but I know that what she called Caroline Myss, M-Y-S-S, that's how you spell her surname. She talks a lot about the archetypes. I've got a whole book about it from her. Originally, it came from Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever he is. But I recently came across them again, and they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Something about the archetypes this time just really dropped in for me. And I was able to look back over my own business journey and really see the power of the archetypes at play. So with my story, many of you know it, but I had a failed attempt at my business around 7 years ago, my first iteration of my business. And I launched as a coach and I did all the stuff and I got a few clients, but very quickly went into feast and famine, and then had some personal circumstances, and it all went horribly wrong, a terrible failure. Of course, it wasn't really a failure, it was just part of the journey, but apparent failure. And had to really rebuild my life after a divorce, ending up back in my parents' tiny spare bedroom and rebuilding my life and business from there. And then the other experience of creating this iteration of the business and having a full schedule of clients from the get-go. And I'm not saying it's all been easy and smooth sailing, of course it hasn't. As you know, you're an entrepreneur, that there are challenges. It's the roller coaster. But it has just unfolded in a way that it didn't before. So whereas before it very much felt like me pushing a boulder up a hill, this time things have come more easily. It's like me and the universe in partnership together, you know? So I wanted to talk about that. And when I came across the archetypes this time, I realized that I was so in my shadow archetypes that first time that I was launching a business. And this time I'm so much more in my empowered archetypes. And that is really what has made the difference. And it's why it's step one in the Warrior S framework of really showing you how to land in your power and how to claim your confidence. Because without this piece, nothing else works. And that was my experience back in the day with my first iteration of my business. I also see it over and over again with clients. Now I can very quickly identify what shadow archetype is dominant in somebody. And if I can bring that to their awareness, oftentimes that is the thing that has been holding them back in their business. So where, you know, they will have been trying all the different strategies and the different things, and nothing's really working. Hi, Helen. Good to see you. And nothing's really working. This, in my experience, is the reason why. This is the underlying piece. So it was for me anyway. So I will see somebody and they'll be in saboteur. They'll have strong saboteur energy, and they'll be in shadow, and it will be a super logical voice telling them all the reasons they can't, all the reasons to stay safe, all the reasons to hold back and not do the thing, right? I need to go and learn more. I need to take another program. My program isn't ready. This is the voice of the saboteur. And the sneaky thing about the saboteur is it's super, super logical. So it can sound very, very convincing. So I'm going to have a sip of my tea here because I'm practicing excellent self-care today after not feeling very well last week. So I'm sitting down today for our show together, and I'm just really taking it gently and not rushing through my day today. So it makes a difference. Okay, so the archetype pairing. So very typically, and I heard this from a lady called Lorna Johnson, but there are pairings of archetypes that kind of go hand in hand, the shadow archetype and the opposite empowered archetype. And this was a new piece to me, but through my own experimentation and looking at my clients, I find it to be really accurate and really helpful. So the four dominant pairings are, first up, the lover. Okay, so that's the empowered archetype. And then the shadow version of that is the prostitute. So then we have, let's do the shadow ones first. Okay, so shadow, you have prostitute, and then child, victim, and saboteur. Now, bear in mind that we all have these. It's not like, you know, we all have all of them in our psyche. Carl Jung talked about the collective psyche, the collective unconscious. And so we all have these kind of voices or these energies or these entities, if you like, in our psyche, and that's okay. It's normal. So the opposite of the prostitute is the lover. The opposite of the child is the queen. The opposite of the victim is the warrior, and the opposite of the saboteur is the magician or the sorceress. Now, what does that all mean? Well, if we think about the archetype of the prostitute, what she does is she doesn't value things. She doesn't value her own time, her own worth, her own gifts. She doesn't value things other people give her. She doesn't value what she has. She's always trying to get more money. Hi, Emma. Hi, Kath. Good to see you. She's always trying to get more money, but she will sell out really important things like her integrity, her values, her belief systems for money. So this can play out in all of our businesses, particularly at the beginning when we need clients. And oftentimes we'll say yes to a client when it should really be no. And you know, I've seen this play out. It's a very icky energy, and like I've been there too, right? So this is, you know, not like pointing the finger at anyone, but I've been on a sales call where and I've been the potential client, and the other person I have identified is in their prostitute energy. It feels really icky. You can pick up on it energetically. And it made me feel like, am I just a cash cow? You know? So maybe you've experienced that too, but that's what it's like for the other person when you're coming from your prostitute. It's when we're like showing up to sales calls and thinking about, I need to sign this client to make my money or pay my bills. It's really, really icky. And I know sometimes, you know, you do have to pay your bills, whatever, but it's understanding and having a practice for separating that out when you go on sales calls, to know that you are taken care of regardless of any outcome on any sales call. It's trusting in the universe. But the prostitute is not trusting. You know, she will do anything for money. She will work. She'll say yes when she means no. The opposite of the prostitute, the shadow prostitute, is the lover. Right? And the lover is the one, because again, you have this in you. She's the one who knows her values. She knows what's important to her, and she will prioritize those no matter what anyone else says. Right? And she will say no to things, even when it's difficult. And she doesn't want to say no because she wants to like bring in some money or whatever. She is guided by her values, and she will live by her values even when it's not easy. And it's not easy because you will be tested. When you start to step into the empowered energy archetypes, you will be tested, and that's a good thing. And as we pass these tests, we up level in all ways, and our capacity grows, and it's so exciting. Okay, the next one is the child and the queen pairing. So the child is, and there's a reason why they're in this order, and I'll come to that. But the child has loads and loads of dreams, right? All these big ideas. I want to do this in my business, and I want to earn $1 million, and I'm going to build a school in Africa, and all these things, but isn't bringing any of them to reality. She's kind of like a mystical, magical. She can be very fun, but she doesn't want to take responsibility. In fact, responsibility feels like pressure, and it scares her. She'd rather someone else take responsibility, right? She'd rather someone else handle the bills. So as we're going through these, just drop in a comment and let me know which is your dominant pairing. I'll share mine with you as well. Mine is victim warrior, and I'll come to that. But we're with the child at the moment. So this is obviously shadow child we're talking, right? When you're in shadow energy. And so the opposite of the child is the queen. And the queen is very much in her power. When she shows up, she's not attached to any outcome, but she makes a decree knowing that it is happening and it will happen. So she's the one responsible for taking the dreams of the child and decreeing that they are now reality and that this is what we're doing. She is a very direct communicator. She is very grounded in herself. So when you're on a sales call, rather than losing yourself in the other person, you stay very grounded in you. And when you're grounded to that like divine truth, you don't get pulled off by anything. So they can share objections with you, and it's cool. You're happy to speak about that. It doesn't throw you. It's like you have your roots, you're grounded. So that's queen energy. Okay, next pairing is the victim warrior S, and this was my dominant pairing. It's why my framework is called the warrior S framework. So victim is when you think all the power's outside of you. And I didn't like to think I was a victim, right? I was like, no way, I'm into personal development, I'm into taking responsibility, I'm not a victim. I have this tendency really strongly, and I just have to watch myself, my thoughts, and the way I'm being. So the victim thinks that she has no power. She might say she believes in manifestation and, you know, the universal laws, but really she kind of thinks stuff happens to her, right? And that she has no say over how her life unfolds. Everyone else and everything else has the power and is to blame. And for me, a really challenging one has been my kind of ongoing health condition, which I'm healing, because for a long time I let that be an excuse. And so finding the balance between really taking care of my health but not letting it hold me back, and not letting any condition or circumstance be an excuse for any of us, right? You know, not anything external being a reason for us not to create what we say we want to create. And the opposite of the victim is the warrior, or the warrior-S, as I like to say. And she is brilliant with resources. So she will go out there in the material world and she will earn money and she will get resources. It's quite a masculine energy archetype, actually, interestingly, being that this business is, you know, my company is Do Business Like a Woman. But obviously this is the part of the masculine energy that I needed to bring in. And certainly in my business, as I've up-leveled, it's needed to be systems in place, processes. The Warrior S handles resources. She is fierce. She does not let circumstances throw her. She's good at getting people on board and people rallied, and she will work with what she's got, and she'll bring in all your resources and she'll help you to move forward on this material plane. So do you see there's like a progression from the lover to the queen to the warrior S, in terms of the lover knows the values, she's like the foundation. The queen makes the decree. The warrior S carries it out on the physical realm. And now we'll come to the last dominant pairing. This is why it's so exciting. I love this stuff. And the last dominant pairing is the saboteur magician. So as I'm going through, let me know which yours is. I really, really want to know. The saboteur is that, I said at the beginning, it's that really logical voice of like, you can't do that. You're not ready yet. You need to go and learn something else. Oh, why would anyone listen to you? Because there are so many people talking about what you do. You might as well just give up. Like, you should really go and get a job. And, oh, by the way, let's make a list of pros and cons. And, oh, I need to think about this some more. When you hear that on sales calls, I need to think about this. They are in the saboteur energy. Right? Because what do they need to think about? If they've shown up on the call and they've said it's a fit and everything, what that means is they're not trusting themselves. And the opposite of the saboteur is a magician, or the warrior S. She is the one who is in touch with your intuition, and she knows. This is the wiser part of you. This is the one that can manifest, the magical part of you. This is your intuition, and your intuition is fast. It's the immediate answer you get, right? When you start to trust your intuition, oh my God, amazing things happen in your business. And everything just ramps up when you're willing and able to do that. But yes, it's scary because it's not convenient. The answers you hear from your intuition usually don't make any sense at all. And it's not convenient, and it goes against all of our conditioning in the Western world and all that overly rational, overly thinking-based approach, right? It's the thinking mind, the rational mind that the Western culture puts so much emphasis on, rather than the body intelligence, rather than the divine knowing that you have in you. So that is the saboteur and magician or sorceress. So Emma says she's victim warrior S as well. Cool, Emma. Same. So she resonates with the same one as me. Yeah, awesome. Us warrior S's are good. We're good. So those are the dominant pairings. And remember, we all have all of them. So if you're in shadow in any one area, you'll notice you're in shadow probably in all of them, and you'll slip in and out. But the point of this is to notice who's running your business, because so often it is the prostitute, the child, the victim, or the saboteur. And I'm telling you, when the shadow archetype is in charge and running the show, you are going to have so many problems. And I honestly, almost feel like I could say, this is the problem that everyone's having when I come across them and they're having problems in their businesses. Now that sounds like a huge thing to say, I know. And like, yeah, there are some strategical pieces that often need fixing. There's some stuff to do with messaging, all those kind of things. But this is so often the underlying problem, and it's energetic, because when you listen to the prostitute, child victim, or saboteur, what do you think that does to you energetically? And how do you think you're then feeling? And how do you think you're then thinking and then showing up in your business? And what kind of actions are you taking? And what quality of energy and actions are you bringing? Right? So this is the piece. It's like, comes back to the state of being that we are in when we do anything. And so just notice, like, get really familiar with the voices, particularly to begin with, the shadow voices, because typically we'll have those voices in our ear, in our head, and we won't even know that we're listening to them. But anytime you feel fear and doubt, you are likely tapped into and listening to one of the shadow archetypes. And if you can identify which voice it is, you can alchemize it. You can have that conversation, because the shadow archetypes need to be heard before they can be released. But what you can do is, if you notice that you're in child and you're showing up on your sales calls in child, which never works. I shared the story of Althea, one of my new VIP one-to-one clients, in the group last week, and how we just shifted, because she was showing up to her sales calls in child energy, and of course it wasn't working, and we shifted that so that she showed up in Queen, and of course she went ahead and closed the sale on a full pay package with her client. So, you know, that's how fast this works if you're willing to do the work. But notice any time that, you know, say the child is talking in your mind, and it's like, oh, you know, well, let's just go and dream a bit more, and we'll just go and do some visions, and oh, I think I'll do this now, and like shiny object syndrome and big dreams. Anytime you notice that, but you're not taking action, or you're actually procrastinating, or you're just out of your power and you don't want to take responsibility, you don't want to, you know, you want someone else to handle it, well, you can catch that. And then you can facilitate a conversation between the queen and the child, and the queen will talk to the child, and the child wants to be heard. So the child will say, I'm feeling like this, and I'm scared about this. And the queen will facilitate that, and then it alchemizes until you ultimately get to the voice of truth, which is when you hear the actual truth from the queen of, well, I am responsible for my life, and this is what I choose to create now. This is what we're doing, right? And you'll notice a shift in your physiology, all of it. Same with the victim warrior S, all right? So notice, you know, when the victim is in control, like, and it could just be a little thought like, well, I can't do it because of this situation. And, oh, it's okay for her because she's thinner, prettier, further ahead. She had this advantage. That is the voice of the victim, right? Telling you can't do it because of something outside of you. And so just catch that, and then have the warrior S take charge. Notice the voice of the prostitute, right? Trying to sell you out. Notice the voice of the saboteur anytime that you're have a decision to make, or you're thinking of doing something. And when you can catch these, you can alchemize them, step into the empowered archetype, and begin showing up from that place, which changes everything. Changes your state of being, changes your thoughts. It is so magical. It has had me ever more in my power. It's had my results just exploding in my business, and the same with my clients when I work on these patterns with them. So you can totally do this too. It's just catching all the time, noticing and changing. But you know, it's fun to do as well, because who wants to be feeling like a victim? Who wants to be in saboteur? No one. It's just conditioning. It's just patterning. So Emma says she's working towards the sorceress. Yeah, sorceress is fun, but we all have her right there. So in some ways, Emma, you don't need to work towards her because she just is part of you. She's just there. So just tap into her, and anytime you need to, just say to yourself, what would my sorceress do now? I'll ask my sorceress, what should I do about this? And check in for your intuition. You might not like the answer you get, but it's there, I promise you. You have her in you right now, and all you need to do is just let her come through. Like, let her support you. Let her work through you. Sheila says hers is the saboteur sorceress. Yeah, Sheila, so common for so many of us, and particularly in this culture that we live in. So awesome work, ladies. I'm so glad that you are identifying yours, and I invite you to start alchemizing this and noticing anytime which energy you're coming through. Anytime fear and doubt shows up, just tune into which voice you're listening to, facilitate the conversation and alchemize it, step into your power, right? There's a difference between victim and warrior-ess. So where are you coming from? Let me know if this was useful for you. Lots of love, and I'll see you next time. Mwah!